Looking at the metabolic side of carbohydrate addiction, you've got a lot of things that people usually deal with. You've got things like insulin resistance, fat gain. You've got messed up gut. Your microbiome is just all out of whack. You can't lose weight. You have brain fog. You can't concentrate. Well, usually after 90 days plus on a keto, ketovore, or carnivore diet, that stuff is usually resolved. But what about the mental side of it? Welcome back, everybody. I hope everyone's had a great week, and if you're new here, I welcome you too. So that was the metabolic side of carbohydrate addiction. The mental side, as I said, is much different. Now this is going to specifically pertain mostly to the keto diet, because with ketovore and carnivore, you don't have really any kind of sweet treats because those are not supposed to be a part of that diet. And I understand that a lot of people have to have those when they're first starting out on keto, because you're coming from having all these sweets and sugary things to pretty much none of that. This is where the keto approved sweets and treats start to come into play. As I said, I know most people have to have those in the beginning, and I did too, but that's where a problem can start to continue on even after you've got over the metabolic side of carbohydrate addiction. Whether it's keto approved or not, anytime you eat something sweet, as soon as it hits your taste buds, it lights up the pleasure center in your brain. It knows it's sweet, it knows it tastes good, and then you have a release of dopamine. For those of you that don't know, dopamine is the feel-good hormone. If you're consuming a lot of these on the daily basis, you're getting that dopamine hit over and over and over again, and your body gets used to that dopamine being released and it making you feel good. And your body knows that because of those treats, that's what's causing it to get its dopamine that it's used to getting. So if you have the problem like I did at one point in time with this, where if you don't have some kind of keto sweet or treat at least 2 or 3 times a day, and especially like after meals, it feels like your day is just ruined and your meal is completely just incomplete. Well, that should be a clear sign that something's not quite right. You shouldn't feel that way because you're not having something. And that's where the mental part of the carbohydrate addiction comes in at its strongest. Just look at people who smoke cigarettes or do extremely addictive drugs. They can't go a day or sometimes even hours without having them, because those also give the body a big bump in dopamine, just like these keto approved sweets and treats do. This obviously isn't a good thing. You don't want that going on and on and on for years to come. That's going to end up being torturous in the long run, because there might be times and days where you're not able to have these keto sweets and treats, and you're not going to feel good. Your energy levels are going to be low. You might be a little depressed and just not feeling good in general. This is where a dopamine reset in your brain needs to take place. But the question is, how do you go about doing that? Well, you need to find a productive activity or a hobby, something good, something productive to take up your time and give you pleasure, and preferably nothing illegal. A great example is going to be how I dealt with it, because I dealt with the mental side of this for probably a good 3 years, I'd say. But last year, when I was out of work for about 2 months due to I was at home pretty much every day. Well, I ended up finding out that I enjoyed activities like videography, photography, and graphic design. So I got real into those and doing that stuff, and it would come, time for me to eat. I would make my meal, have my food, and then I would be right back on my computer, doing work and having fun and exploring the different things around the activities that I was doing. Due to that, it got to where I wasn't even given a care in the world about having something sweet or some kind of keto treat after I got done eating, because I had something else to replace that I enjoyed doing. So if you feel like you have this issue, that's what you need to do. You need to find some kind of activity to replace the pleasure you get from having a keto treat or a keto sweet after a meal or whenever it may be, because you actually might just be having those out of boredom. You could take your dog for a walk or discover a new hobby or activity that you like, something that just kind of almost gives you a purpose. I discovered this stuff that I do is kind of like my purpose, because I've got a knack for it and I love doing it. So whether or not you've taken care of the metabolic side of carbohydrate addiction, just keep this stuff in mind going forward. If you're having that issue of having to have this sweet stuff, it might be time for a dopamine reset. This way your mind and body can be in synergy with each other. Guys, make sure you hit that like button if this video helped you, but keep it keto, keep it healthy, and I'll see y'all next week.